Hello, everyone, and welcome to the STAR Mentoring Program. In this episode, we're going to be trying to create a basic Java program and getting it to print out something onto our screen. Um, in the last video, if you followed it correctly, you should have your main.java file, and none of these should be green over here because they should now be committed, so there shouldn't be anything green. But you'll see if I type something, it will turn red or green depending on because of those changes. So right now, I want to we're going to go over some of the basics in Java. So you can follow along if you want to. It might be better though to wait until I've typed something and then follow along, but do it however you want to. So whenever we create a function, you can kind of think of a function as like the buttons on like a game controller, or so like basically each button will do something. So say A might open the claw, B might close the claw. You can even functions can even be more complicated than that. So for example, you can make the sticks of your controller make the drivetrain move. So that's another example of a function. So in Java, the way we create a function is by first typing in the return type like this, and then we're going to give it a name. That's going to be the second thing we type. Then we type a left and right parentheses, and then we're going to type in a curly brace. So you'll notice one of the things, this is just something that these integrated development environments allow us to do, is whenever we type in a left parentheses, it automatically types the right one. So if I type in a right one, it'll do it. And then same thing for these. If I click enter, it also automatically spaces me 4 times. So this is our function, and you're going to see some errors. We will fix those, and I'll explain what these are exactly. So um, in functions, what this return type right here is basically um, it's how functions give us value. So functions can basically return a value. They can give you a number, a word, a time, anything like that. But if we want to create a function that doesn't return anything, we're going to use the word void. And that means this function doesn't return anything. And we're also going to want to give our function a name. In this case, we could call it something like close claw. But in this case, we're going to call it main because this is where the start of our program is going to be. So the parentheses right here are where we would pass in values into our function. So this is the output of the function. This is basically the input, like where values can go in. And then this is the body of the function, so where all the action happens. In Java, the left curly brace goes on the same line, and Java start at main. So when Java goes through the code, it's going to go through line by line just like this. It's just going to go from top to bottom. It's not going to skip around or do anything. Like it might skip, but it's not going to run multiple lines at once. So um, now you might notice we have an error right here. This is because we need to create what's called a class. And a class in Java you can kind of think of as a container for related functions. So I'm going to create a class right here. I'm going to call it main. We also need to put the word public before it. We'll explain why later, but for now, we're going to type in public class main. Notice that this word, whoopsie, I did not mean to type that word, main. So you'll notice right here, this word main, I capitalized it. It needs to match the name of the file, or else this class won't work. That's just a restriction Java has, and yeah, that's just how it works. Also, classes do not have parentheses. So right here we have our function, and in order to make our errors all go away, we're going to need to put it inside of our main function and hopefully fix the spacing. So inside of a function, everything's going to be indented like this, and then inside of our function, we're going to indent it 4 more. So this is where we would start writing our code. Um, and one thing I just want to also point out is that a function may also be called a method. A method is basically a function that's part of a class, and since functions are part of classes, we often call them methods. So we also need to, just to make sure, just doing a few things just to make our Java program work, we need to type in a few words before this word void here. We'll explain what these do later, but for now, just copy them. So we're going to type in public static void. These two we'll learn what they do later. And then inside of our function, we're going to type in string with a capital S. It must have a capital S. And then we're going to type in a left and right square bracket. And then we're going to put a space and then ARGS. So that should be about it. We shouldn't have any more errors, ignoring that. And you might have a thing that come up here that says run. You might not, but we'll make sure that that ends up working. So there's a few things here that I just want to talk about. First, we have what's called the Pascal and the camel case naming conventions. With the Pascal naming convention, it's going to be the first letter capitalized, then the next word, and then the next word. Another naming convention we have in Java is the camel case naming convention. And with this naming convention, the first word is lowercase, but then every subsequent word, every word after it is going to be capitalized. Yeah, also the N right here. So, functions right here always use camel case. Classes always use Pascal case. Arguments use camel case, and classes, because string is a class, we'll learn about that later, uses Pascal case. And we'll learn what all this means right here, but that's just something you can kind of know. If you're looking at a function, it's going to be lowercase. If it's a class, it's going to be capital. So, um, now that we have this, I just want to create a basic statement, and this is going to print out text onto the screen. And this statement is system dot out dot print ln. Then we're going to type our left parentheses, and we're going to type in a quotation marks to mark that we're creating it. And you might also notice this might happen. It'll come with a little X right here. This doesn't actually exist in my code. This is just my IDE saying, hey, you can actually type something here. This is like this is like your argument. It's this argument name coming up right here. We'll explain that a little bit more later. So then I'm going to type in a little text here. You can type in honestly anything you want. I'm going to type in hello world with an exclamation point. And then last thing, and this is really important, it's very easy to forget. There's like a little red squiggly here. That's because I need a semicolon at the end of every Java expression. Now with that, I should be able to run it by clicking run Java, and that should run our main class and our main.java. And you'll see it printed out hello world on the screen. This right here is the command it's executing to run the Java program. You can ignore that, and then right here is where our actual code is being run. So that should be about it. This is just a basic Java program right here, and we also went over some other things that are pretty useful and pretty helpful to know.